Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about prequel Grumblers, and specifically an assumption that serves as a foundation for their opinions. An assumption that at this point, objectively, in 2017, seeing where Star Wars is now, is more wrong than it ever was. And we can see objectively that it's wrong. So, all right, so here's my take, right? So one, the reason why I'm continuing to talk about this is, well, first I'm going to talk about prequel grumbler rather than prequel hater. So I've used the term prequel hate in the past, and I believe there's probably like 1 million prequel haters in the world, okay? People who really hate those films and are really vehement about it. But there are millions and millions of prequel grumblers. And those are people who say, oh, I really don't like Jar Jar Binks, and I really don't like Newt Gunray, and I didn't like the way Hayden Christensen acted, and I didn't like the lines that they had, young Anakin say in Phantom, and just a long list of these prequel grumblings, right? So grumblers are and almost all grumblers say, oh, I like this about the prequels, but overall I didn't like those movies because of XYZ, and then they'll trot out a whole bunch of reasons. And the reason why I'm talking about this today is I am just a dyed-in-the-wool fan of Star Wars and really George Lucas, and so prequel grumblers spent about 15 years downing the prequels, and actually I would say it's about 12 years downing the prequels, and really really dragging George Lucas's name in the mud. And I feel that's terribly unfair. I think he's an amazing director, and he's amazing writer. Okay, and I think right now it's really a great time to say this because it's objectively been proven. So Star Wars is the most valuable intellectual property in the world, without exception. And the prequels have not only proven to be a good foundation for Star Wars for the next trilogy of movies, but really, Star Wars has now been sold to Disney, and it's going to be created into Americana the way Mickey Mouse is. It's going to be world famous for centuries, and that is an incredible. That is incredibly important, and it is objectively an achievement that is really owned by George Lucas. He made the prequels, and the prequels are tremendous. They're objectively tremendous, right? Now, I understand that it's art and that subjective opinions are in here, but the reality is, I really feel it's time to start to really examine the prequel grumbling, the damage they did, and really understand what prequel grumbling really was, okay? Because it's big. It's a huge issue in Star Wars, okay? So here's the assumption that all prequel grumbling sits on. It all sits on an assumption that if George Lucas had just made the changes that the prequel grumblers wanted, that Star Wars would have been, that the prequels would still have been a success, right? And I'm of the firm opinion that movies are like baking. They're not like cooking, right? If you cook a meal, you can cook it in different ways, and it's going to turn out great, right? And it can turn out great with various paths. But baking's not like that. It's a formula, and that formula needs to be hit, right? You need to get it right, right? And I feel that George Lucas knew exactly what he was doing when he made the prequels. And if you look at the numbers, you can see it, okay? He made a science fiction movie, a space opera, that had a commercially successful second trilogy. That has never been done in the history of humanity. Never. And there have been a lot of people that tried. Here's all the people that tried. District 9, Blade Runner, right? Avatar, Matrix, Interstellar. There's just, the list goes on and on and on and on. Inception, and just a huge number of movies that are out there. Like, it's just a very long number. A perfect example is Aliens. Ridley Scott made Aliens. And he made, and that movie has an original trilogy, and the attempt at a second trilogy was an absolute, Prometheus was a bomb. It was critically and commercially unsuccessful. And, it confused people, but, no one said it was good. The Thing, and just a very, very long list of additional films. Just look at all the sci-fi films that are out there. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Primer, and, it's just such a long list of science fiction movies. And that's the thing, is prequel grumblers believe that if George had just tweaked this or made this change, it would have been a great movie, and because almost all of them say they like certain aspects of it, but they don't like the movies overall. And so that's my take, is that what I'm saying is prequel grumblers are assuming that the prequels would be an auto success. And that's just not the case. George Lucas had to blaze a path that no one else had ever blazed. And he did it successfully. And now, in 2017, looking at the relaunch of a third trilogy, looking at Star Wars going into the status of Americana, where just like red Coca-Cola machines and apple pie and baseball. I mean, this is a property that's going to be around for centuries, and the prequels are part of that, and they're foundational. And the reason why I'm taking the time to do this is I really feel that I owe George Lucas something. Star Wars is the number 4 source of joy in my life. First is God, second is family, and third is tabletop role-playing games. Star Wars is the 4th source of joy in my life, and it has brought me an immense amount of joy. More moments that are enjoyable and wonderful than I can even count, right? That I can even remember. Just hours and hours and moments and moments and moments. And I really, I've always believed in George Lucas, and I want there to be a record for people to know that, when there was that backlash against the prequels, that was always people, being given an objectively wonderful film and really just kind of grumbling, just being given a great gift and being unhappy with something that now, clearly, there's so much evidence that the prequel films were rock solid foundation. The likes of that do not exist anywhere else in film. The prequels have accomplished tasks that no other science fiction writer, filmmaker, actor, none of them have been able to accomplish. And so, now sitting in 2017 with these amazing movies like The Force Awakens and Rogue One, moving into The Last Jedi, moving into a Han Solo prequel film, we can say, we now know the truth about the prequels, and that prequel grumblers were wrong then, and now they're objectively wrong. If you just look at the numbers, the prequels being successful were never an auto success, and that is the assumption of every prequel grumbler. And when you look at it now, it's just clear that the people who were prequel grumblers really, what's a good way? Oh, they just don't understand film or art, and that's clear now, right? And the other reason why I'm taking the time to say this is, not only did people down, a man who really worked his entire life to give people an experience that nobody else has been able to equal. There were people who made businesses on downing him and his art, and I just want to try to kind of dismantle some of that grumbling that harmed his name, and his name should have never been harmed. And when I look at the years that he had to, if you look at pictures of him between 2000 and 2012, you could tell he went through a lot of sadness. And so this is just my small attempt to restore George Lucas's good name and remind people that the prequel Grumblers were the problem. It was never Lucas. It was never Lucas. And we can see that now. You can see that with objective data now. Thanks.